We're back. It is the first week of the new year, and it's shaping up to be one that will change American politics one way or another. The latest on Georgia, what's happening in Congress, and what the president said on the tape that's making news this morning. Plus, why is it taking so long to get this COVID vaccine into people's arms? Here's what you need to know. Good morning. This is Cheddar's Need2Know podcast for Monday, January 4th, 2021. I am Jill Wagner here with Carlo Versano. Carlo, good morning and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, my friend. I missed you. Jill, we're 4 days into 2021. Everyone's already acting a damn fool.
It didn't take long.
No, did you have a good New Year, though?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I was off for the past week, and I feel like I left my house probably I could count on one or maybe two hands how many times I actually ventured out. But it was nice. It was very relaxed, great quality time with my husband and my daughter. So yeah, I mean, it was very 2020, but it was really nice. How about you?
Well, you know the mantra, staying home is good, right? As long as you didn't get COVID, that's a good day. That's our mantra going into this year. Same thing. We didn't do anything. I made it to midnight. That's the big thing. I had one glass of champagne. I made it till about 12:10. And yeah, so really thrilling stuff here. But hey.
All right. Well, there is no shortage of news on this first podcast of 2021. Okay, buckle up, everybody. This first week is bringing a new Congress, a pair of Senate runoff elections that's going to determine who controls Congress, and what's shaping up to be an extraordinary electoral vote count in Congress. And I'm going to start with that new Trump tape. You may have already heard it in this hour-long phone call between President Trump and Georgia's top election officials this weekend, Brad Raffensperger. The president begs and demands that Raffensperger, quote, find 11,780 votes that would be needed to overturn Joe Biden's victory in the state, and then says that it amounts to a, quote, criminal offense if he does not. Take a listen.
You know what they did, and you're not reporting it. That's a criminal offense, and you can't let that happen. That's a big risk to you and to Ryan, your lawyer. That's a big risk. But they are shredding ballots, in my opinion, based on what I've heard, and they are removing machinery, and they're moving it as fast as they can, both of which are criminal fines, and you can't let it happen, and you are letting it happen. I'm notifying you that you're letting it happen. So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
Raffensperger, along with his lawyer, who's also on the call, rejects the demands and eventually politely ends the conversation. On the tape, which was leaked to the Washington Post, President Trump repeatedly brings up these debunked conspiracy theories and falsely asserts that he won the state.
I'm no big city lawyer, Jill, but that sure seems like a crime he just committed there. But I guess I'll leave it to the experts to say whether or not that's actually criminal. I don't know what else to say. I mean, there was a story last week in the New York Times about COVID patients having psychotic breaks like months after they recovered. Maybe that's what's happening here with the president. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I mean, these are the ramblings of a lunatic. I seriously, this is insanity.
So I always go back to the George Costanza line. I don't know if you remember this from Seinfeld. He says, it's not a lie if you believe it. And what really struck me after listening to these tapes, or to this tape, is just that the president sounds like he genuinely believes the conspiracy theories and just this idea that he really did win the election and that it was stolen from him because of widespread fraud. Again, there's zero evidence of that. His own Attorney General, Bill Barr, or at least before he stepped down, right, Bill Barr, saying no evidence that would really support widespread voter fraud that could overturn the results. But I don't know, that's what struck me when I listened to the president.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, I don't really know what to make of that, right? I mean, I could believe that I'm the Queen of England, right? But what is that? I'm not. I don't know.
Both the president and president-elect are going to be in Georgia today to rally their bases on the eve of the dual special elections that are going to determine who controls the Senate. So if John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock win tomorrow, Democrats will control both houses. So they'll control both the House and the Senate
Yep.
and the presidency.
And if either Senators David Perdue or Kelly Loeffler win tomorrow, the Republicans will maintain their majority in the Senate. So the way to think about this, basically, Democrats have to win both. Republicans only need to win one. Although I suspect it's either going to be, both go Democrat or both go Republican. Polling, I mean, again, polling is pretty irrelevant here, but it just shows, all the polling shows these are basically toss-ups, could go either way. It's going to all come down to turnout, as we always say. My prediction, not that it means much, but it is that I think the Republicans are going to keep both of these seats. I think it's going to be very close, and I also don't think that we're going to know tomorrow, because again, there's a lot of mail-in ballots here, so this is just be prepared that this may take a couple days to count all these votes. But yeah, tomorrow's the big day. Biden and President Trump both in town today. So we'll actually, one of the interesting things, Jill, is we'll see if this tape, given that it has to, it is the Georgia Secretary of State on this tape, we'll see if that actually makes a difference in terms of a late swing towards the Democrats.
One of the concerns from Republicans here is that the president coming out and constantly just saying the election is fraudulent, whatever his argument is it's actually going to turn people off from voting. His people, it's going to turn Republican voters off. So we'll see what happens. Meanwhile, Carlo, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi narrowly won re-election for what's likely to be her final term as Speaker as the 117th Congress convened this week. The big action will be Wednesday. That's when a joint session of Congress comes together to count the electoral votes. Normally, this is not a particularly newsworthy event. This year, though, 12 Senate Republicans, led by Ted Cruz, along with dozens of House Republicans, have pledged to try to undo President-elect Biden's victory, forcing an unprecedented vote in both houses. It's pretty much doomed to fail, but many say it still raises serious questions about the underlying foundation of our democracy. They're basically saying that they want an audit. So if you listen to any of these guys, they're saying we're not saying we want to overturn the election. We're just saying we want a bipartisan audit of the results.
Which to me, I mean, I'm really trying in this new year. I know it probably doesn't sound like it, but I'm really trying to give people the benefit of the doubt more. And I'm trying to find a reason why this is anything other than like straight up sedition, seriously, trying to change the outcome of a free and fair election. Again, I don't want to sound like I'm some screaming MSNBC host here, but this is garbage, right? This is authoritarian garbage. And if you live in a democracy, which we do, this is something that you should not be endorsing, regardless of who you voted for. And it scares the hell out of me, not because it's going to work, but because of what it portends for the future, right? Is this just how it's going to be from now on? Anytime a Republican loses an election, we're going to go through this whole freaking song and dance for months afterwards. The thing is, Ted Cruz and these guys, they're not actually even alleging fraud, right? Kind of what you're saying. They're alleging that there are allegations of fraud. There's a big difference there, right? There's allegations of fraud because they've been making them. January 6th, this day where they do this electoral college vote, it's not a do-over. There have been audits of the vote. All of the states in question have done audits. The votes have been certified. So if somebody tells you this is just like, oh, we're just, politicians playing politics, to me at least, it's really more than that. And I don't really know what else to say about it.
Well, I think you make a good point, is that there have been recounts, right? In all of the states where it's been pretty close, they've recounted, they've done hand recounts. So Ron Johnson, who's one of the 12, he went on Meet the Press this weekend. I don't know if you saw his interview with Chuck Todd.
Oh, yeah.
His argument to Chuck Todd was essentially that. He said, look, this is out there. These allegations are out there, and a lot of people don't trust the results, and we have to look into it. And Todd said, you guys are the arsonists in this case. You started this fire. He said, there are a lot of people who believe 9/11 was an inside job.
Exactly.
Is there a congressional investigation into that? Did we really land on the moon? Are we going to investigate?
Right.
You don't just look into these debunked conspiracy theories and give them validity. There's a lot of talk from some establishment Republicans that this is that there is a question of whether the Republican Party can survive this. Is this going to be something that just splits the party into kind of Trump backers and not Trump backers? And what is our political system going to look like?
That's a really good question for like the coming year or two to see, because none of us have any idea what the Republican Party looks like post Trump. That's like the big question, right? Does he sort of just fade away, or does what you just said happen? And maybe there's something good that comes of that, right? Maybe you get a conservative party that sort of grows out of that, which could be good for democracy, right? I mean, maybe I'm trying to look on the bright side here, but back to what you were saying, it's like, again, if I'm the Queen of England, if I'm walking around the streets of New York City screaming that I'm the Queen of England, there's not like I'm not the freaking Queen of England. Like, that doesn't mean that there's any truth to it just because I'm saying it. It's
Let's move on to the latest with
Please.
the COVID vaccine rollout. More than 4
Oh God,
million
even
Americans,
more frustrating.
This will get a bee in my bonnet, as they say. All right, more than 4 million Americans have been given their first dose of the coronavirus vaccine. 4 million sounds like a lot. It is not. At that pace, it's going to basically take like 10 years for the entire United States to get vaccinated. Dr. Fauci saying he expects this pace to pick up in the coming days. The big debate in public health circles now is whether to delay the second doses in order to get more of the first shots into people's arms, given that the first dose does appear to provide at least some protection. Fauci says he's opposed to the idea. The UK is doing it, although the head of Operation Warp Speed has floated the idea of giving 2 half doses of the Moderna vaccine to milk more immunity from the current supply. Time is of the essence. The U.S. reported nearly 300,000 new cases on January 2nd, a new record. Carlo, I think you're going to talk to this, but it's like, this is not the issue. You can't even give the first dose. You haven't even managed to give the first dose to people who you already have secured the second dose. They're solving a problem that we don't have yet.
That's exactly what my takeaway from this is, and why I kept I've been so frustrated by this story for the last couple of weeks. I'm like, I can't wait to get back on the podcast to talk about this, because it's so frustrating. Because the problem is the problem we have right now is a problem of distribution. It's not a problem of supply. I mean, like doubling the doses doesn't double your capacity to give the doses, if that makes sense. Jill, we were talking before the holidays that like our big worry was that a bunch of like social media influencers or Kardashians or rich people were going to get the vaccine first. That would actually be better than what's actually going to happen, which is we're going to start throwing out expired vaccines. I mean, seriously, in the next couple of weeks, this is going to be a big story. We're going to toss some of these vaccines because they've been sitting on the shelf or sitting in the refrigerator for too long, for more than the 30 days that they're supposed to be. That's insane. But look at New York City numbers, right? So we're doing vaccinations basically in this city like during regular business hours. It's not happening really on the weekends. It's not happening on holidays. This should be a 24/7 operation, right? I should get a phone call at 3 a.m. saying, "Hey, you're up. Go to the CVS down the corner." And I would love that. I would happily do that, right? And I'm sure you would too. I'm sure anybody would. But again, the states were basically dumped with all of these vaccines and no plan or money for how to get them into people's arms. And I don't necessarily want to bring this back to what we were just talking about, but you have to, right? This is a failure of the federal government. If we had a leadership structure here that wasn't focused on overturning an election and was trying to leave a lasting legacy vis-a-vis the vaccine, imagine how this might look different. I mean, the White House appears to be completely checked out on this issue, right?
Mark Levine is a councilman in New York. I don't know if you saw anything that he tweeted, but he really fascinating. He said back in April of 1947, New York City faced a terrifying smallpox outbreak. 23 days later, the city had vaccinated 6 million people. Okay, so
Yeah.
that was in 1947 without all of the technology that we have right now.
Right.
And he actually said similarly to now, the federal government was kind of checked out. So it was up
Mhm.
to the city to really figure it out. So how did they do it? He said the smallpox vaccine in 1947 distributed not just out of hospitals, but health department clinics, public and parochial schools, police and fire stations, community centers, union halls, and more. There were thousands of volunteers to administer it. And again, as you say, it was a 24/7 operation. It didn't, take off for Christmas or New Year's or because it was Sunday or Saturday.
Right.
It was, or 5:01, not 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we're
Right.
hearing all of these horrific stories from across the country about how, vaccines arrived, but, the team that was supposed to get it was already on vacation. Like, what is happening here? First of all, what
Yeah.
vacation? Where are you even going? You're not even supposed to be doing anything for Christmas or New Year's. So, this sense of urgency just
Yeah,
simply doesn't
where's the
exist.
sense
I
of
don't know
urgency?
what is happening.
Yeah, and I forget what Cuomo did something the other day that really annoyed me. And now I'm a little he basically was saying he's like we're going to start fining people if they get the vaccine out of order or something. He was making basically
Yeah.
like creating all of these rules and regulations. It's like no. Get the vaccine into people's arms. I don't even care who it is. Obviously, it should be the elderly first and nursing home residents. I think we all agree on that. But like whatever it takes, like just get this thing out there, right? I'm not going to be upset if somebody skips the line anymore. Like it just get it out, right?
Right. So my parents are, I tweeted yesterday saying, my parents are in their 70s, but they're not 75 and older. So, and they both have underlying health conditions. So my dad keeps saying, when do you think we're going to be able to get the vaccine? And I'm like, I don't know, because you're not even you're not third on the list. You're not even on the list right now. It's like
Right.
nursing home, healthcare, I get that. The next is 75 and older. Then it's people who work in transportation, essential workers, teachers. And again, it's like you can argue the merits of all of this. But
Right.
to your point, I mean, are we arguing the wrong issue here? And other countries are doing it. Israel already vaccinated more than
Oh my
10%
God,
of its
yeah.
population.
It's incredible what they're doing
I
there.
don't know what, look, in fairness, some have said give it at least a week or two in January to just be fair, because it was over the holidays. There
Sure.
were snowstorms. So I think the next week or two is
We'll
going to be make
follow
or
it.
break.
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully
Okay.
it's yeah. Hopefully you're right.
In sports, the NFL playoff field is set. The Washington football team won the NFC East title after the Philadelphia Eagles tanked their last game in epic fashion last night, drawing a lot of criticism that the NFL needs to crack down on teams intentionally trying to lose in order to get better draft picks. The Giants are out, the Rams and the Bears are in. The wild card round starts on Saturday.
And Ohio State and Alabama for the college football playoff title. I believe that game is a week from today. After the Buckeyes beat up on Clemson, what was that, New Year's Day or something? But yeah, it must be a
Yeah.
big day in your house, right? Was Mike excited?
Yeah, I mean, even I have to say, the game, the actual playoff game was really for at least if you're an Ohio
Yeah.
State fan, it was an awesome game.
That kid is
and
insane.
it's just
that QB, whatever his name is, I forget.
Justin Field. Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
he played. And it just shows how tough he is of a guy, because he was clearly in a lot of pain and still throwing like 60-yard. I don't even know the correct terminology, but I was so incredibly impressed. And in a year, or in a time anyway, when there's not that much to look forward to, it's like another week to look forward to something.
Yeah.
Here, so.
We'll take it.
What, Carlo?
No, I just said, yeah, you'll take anything, right?
Anything, yeah. Finally, we were apparently visited by aliens a couple years ago and didn't know it. An object that wandered into our solar system back in 2017 was of an extraterrestrial origin and not a comet. This is according to the chair of Harvard's astronomy department in a new book. Avi Loeb lays out a compelling case for why he is certain that interstellar object named,
You're gonna get it.
butcher this. Oumuamua which confounded astronomers a few years ago. It was some kind of piece of trash from another intelligent civilization. He cites two main pieces of evidence for his thesis. He said it had dimensions that had never been seen before in the natural world, and it accelerated away from the sun, suggesting that it was being propelled by something other than the sun's gravity. Woo.
It's funny. It's funny, right? First of all, good work on that. That's a tough name. I think it's Hawaiian. Uma. I don't know. Anyway, it's funny, right? Because there's been so much news about like extraterrestrials and UFOs the last year that's just been sort of like, nobody's been paying attention to because there's been so much other news. But I did just finish a great book, this gives me a great reason to recommend it. It's called The Universe in Creation. It's by Roy Gould, if you want to check it out. It's basically all about the Big Bang and how the building blocks of life are sort of written into the stars. It's a little bit hippy-dippy, but it's phenomenal and it's really easy to understand. I really highly recommend it. But I mention this just because this is one of those books where you read it and it's impossible to think anything other than that there is intelligent life in the universe, just based on how big it is. So I don't know if it was this thing or not, but this guy, Dr. Loeb, seems to make a compelling argument. Maybe I'll read this book. It seems kind of interesting, right?
Any New Year's resolutions, Carlo? This is our first podcast, of course, of 2021. There's always the debate of how long you could say Happy New Year to someone for, but we still, I think for the next couple of days, we could still say it.
I think a week.
So anything you're looking to do differently or better this year?
Well, so my big New Year's resolution this year is going to be, I'm trying to get I think I've mentioned this last month. I'm trying to get myself away from these sort of like algorithmically distorted information environments, if you will. So I got rid of Google Chrome. I'm using this new browser called Brave, which doesn't track you. I'm deleting all of the people who I follow on Instagram. No offense to you or anybody there, but just because that will make it harder for the Instagram algorithm to serve me things. So it's very tough to do. But I'm trying to.
So you're not getting rid of Instagram. Can you just explain that?
Yeah, I'm going to keep. So I don't really use Instagram, but I'm going to keep it just in case I want to post pictures, maybe, or see something that you posted just by like looking you up. But I'm not going to follow anybody. That way, that the Instagram algorithm won't have. You know what I mean? Like they won't know anything about what I want to follow. I mean, again, there's only so much you can do, right? It's not like I'm going to get rid of my Gmail. But when I watch YouTube, I'm going to do it in private browsing, so they don't follow me there. I'm just going to try and take more steps to get out of this sort of like panopticon of internet surveillance.
The real way to do it is to just get off social media in general, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But it's tough.
Baby steps.
Last year, if you remember, my New Year's resolution at your encouragement was to just turn off Instagram entirely.
You did it for a while.
I did it for a while, and I was a better person for it. I felt like all in all, I think a bit happier. But the pandemic just brought me right back. And then for work reasons, I needed to really go on it as well. I got a Peloton last week. And so my New Year's resolution, I'm 3 for 3 in terms of January so far, which is like a little cliche that I did my first Peloton workout on January 1st. But I'm going to really try and get into better shape. Not necessarily lose weight, which I do need to do, but just more like I want to physically feel better. I want to be in better shape. So
I'm going to hold you to it. I'm going to keep you on it.
I mean, and like you can make excuses, right? You work and I'm tired, blah, blah, blah. But I've got a Peloton in my basement, so I don't really know
There's no excuse if it's in your house.
Even if we do 20 minutes, it's better than
something.
Nothing. All right. We hope everybody had a wonderful holiday and a happy new year. And here is to better things in 2021. It's off to a rocky start, but hopefully it will get better. That is what you need to know for Monday, January 4th.
Bye, guys.